Hey, what's going on, McDale High School? How's everyone doing today? Hopefully, you guys are enjoying somewhat of a different kind of senior year this year. Hopefully, it goes back to a little bit normal. As you guys mostly know me, I'm starting Sizemore in the area recruiter for the Air Force here in Erie, Pennsylvania, specifically a cover down McDowell High School. So I'm here to talk to you guys a little bit about the Air Force and you guys' potential chances to serve the Air Force and what the Air Force can do for you at the same time. You're not just serving your country, but you're actually getting a lot of benefits out of it, especially when you compare it to the other branches and going to college. So if this is something you guys have thought about doing in the past, listen for the next couple of minutes, 10, 15 minutes, and see if it's something you really want to do. And if you do, at the end of this video, I'm going to give you guys a slide on basically how to contact me and get more information. But you guys at school did send me a little bit of questions here. That way I can go over with you guys and talk a little bit about the same kind of stuff the other businesses are talking to you guys about at this career fair. So I am Sergeant Sizemore. If those of you don't know who I am, I've been in the Air Force for about 14 years. I've been here doing recruiting duties for about 2 years now. Before that, I was security forces, a military cop in the Air Force. 3 years, I was in Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. I did nuclear weapons security there. After that, I became a weapons instructor called Combat Arms. I taught people how to shoot from handguns to shotguns, rifles, machine guns, grenade launchers, you name it. I'm a weapons expert in that, and that's what I did for 7 years. And then 2 more years I did flight chief duties. I was in charge of, back to the career field, no longer instructor, but I taught people, or not taught people anymore, but I was a flight chief for 2 years. So if you ever watch any shows or movies with a flight sergeant in front of everyone, telling everyone they're going to go for the day, be posted out. That's pretty much what I did for 2 years before I came here to recruiting duties. I loved my 12 years in security forces, and I've loved my 2 years here in recruiting. I love to be able to help people out, so that's kind of why I like being an instructor, help people out, taught them everything. And then now that I'm a recruiter, I'm able to show people and help them out as well. So kind of loving it so far. Got 2 more years here, so you guys have to deal with me for another 2 years. So hopefully that's a good thing. So some of my previous job experience that I've had, I've been stationed in Anacostia Bowling in DC, did some different kind of security there. We had the president come through all the time, and I actually went to Andrews Air Force Base where the Air Force One is held at, and everyone got a top secret clearance there. So when I was a combat arms instructor, weapons instructor at Andrews, I had people from the vice president, secretary of the Air Force, secretary of defense, the chief master sergeant of the Air Force, the general of the Air Force. Everyone came to that range and qualified at our range. So it was not uncommon to have some kind of bigwig general or distinguished visitor of some sort at that range. So it's kind of cool. Got to see a lot of different higher ups. We were also the test facility for all the weapons that the military thought about bringing on. We would actually get to test them and give our opinion on how we liked them. So it's kind of cool. Some experiences I had deployed twice to Afghanistan. I actually like deploying. I enjoy it. It's a little break from the normal day in day out every day kind of thing. So I enjoy deploying. But yeah. 14 years in the Air Force, 6 more before I can retire. That's one of the good benefits of the military, not just Air Force. After 20 years, you have a full pension, and you can find another job or just live off of that. A lot of people just live off of that and have a decent life after that. So 20 years towards service to your country, and then you can retire. But I plan on getting another job after this. I'm actually working on my business administration degree. I'm planning on doing something in real estate when I get done. So another question that your school has provided us is what kind of typical day of life is it for us? Obviously, recruiting is a little bit different for me, so I'm not going to talk about recruiting. Obviously, I'm sitting here answering people's questions, taking phone calls, sending out emails, sitting down with you guys, talking to you guys about the Air Force and getting you through the process in there as a recruiter. But as a security forces member, which is what my actual job is, something you can come in as and do. I'll just talk about my experience and what your typical day was like. So you'd show up around 5 o'clock in the morning. If you're working day shift, you always come in an hour before as a cop, an hour before, so you can arm up, get your weapons, your non-lethals and everything, go to guard mount, find out where you're getting posted that day, who you're being posted with. Then you guys have to get out there to wherever area you might be doing security kind of detail that day, doing law enforcement patrolling on the base that day. Could be anything, working the BDOC, which is basically Base Defense Operations Center, answering phone calls for like 911. You're sitting there with the fire department answering phone calls and dispatching, the patrols and security units out to the zones wherever they got to be. So 6 o'clock you come on. That's when your shift starts. You work from 6 to 2, and then 2 o'clock the other shift's going to come on. That's called mids or swing, or not mids. That's called swings. They work from 2 to 10, and then mid starts from 10 to 6. So during your day you could be responding to traffic stops, building alarms, shopliftings, anything that might be going on. You respond to that. If there's an in-flight emergency, aircraft's coming in to land on that flight line, because it is the Air Force. Most of our stuff is Air Force related. So if a plane's coming in, there's some kind of malfunction of some sort, it's an in-flight emergency, we respond to that as well, just in case the plane does have to do an emergency landing and crash a little bit. And we'll be there to do a cordon, help set up everything, help the fire department pull anyone out or anything that might be going on. Knock on wood, I've never seen a plane crash since I've been in 12 years that anyone's gotten hurt. Yes, I've seen plane crash on the flight line. They crash into something, minor damage and things like that, but nothing major. No one's ever gotten hurt in any kind of crashes that I've ever responded to. So keep that going, knock on wood. So kind of training or education is required for being in the Air Force or security forces. The ASVAB, the Armed Service Vocation Aptitude Battery Test, is required for any branch of the service. Everyone says the Air Force is harder to get into, and it is true. When it comes to the ASVAB score, we all branches need a 31, but when it comes to it, we break down the ASVAB into 4 different sections. We got 4. You got mechanical, you got administration, you got electrical, and general section. Sorry, lost track there. So you got for those 4 sections, and it depends on how you score in those 4 sections, depending on the kind of job that you can actually do. So intel job in the Army or something might require a score in their GT score might be like a 40, but for us, you're looking at like 66 on the ASVAB general section. So it depends on what you're looking to do, and depends on how your ASVAB score is. One reason it is higher and more required for the Air Force is we are a smaller branch. We're not very large like the other ones have almost 1 million people in that branch. We only have about 330,000 people in our branch of service. So we got to make sure it's a little bit limited. And at the same time, you are going to have to do certifications and tests along the way through basic training and then your technical school for your career field. So you have to be able to pass those tests, and they come up with some kind of formulas to say, hey, this is what they need on average to be able to pass these tests for these kind of jobs, and that's why they require that on the ASVAB to be able to pass it in tech school, whatever test you might be taking then. So you do have tests you have to take in tech school and basic training. And guess what? They are actually education certified, so you're getting college credits just for going to basic training tech school. We're the only branch that does that. So everything you do in the Air Force, you're actually getting college credits for, and you're knocking out classes towards your degree without even really taking an actual college class. So that's kind of a cool little aspect of being in the Air Force. I actually have 2 degrees right now, criminal justice and a human relations degree. I've only taken maybe 6 classes for both of those. Everything else has been knocked out by the Air Force and all the training that I've done within the Air Force. I'm working on my business administration, like I mentioned. Now that's the 3rd degree I'm working for now. Another question your school provided is, what kind of income range are we looking at? So when you first start out, we have options to come in as an E1 or an E3, depending on if you do a 4-year or a 6-year degree, a contract. So if you do a 6-year, you're getting E3. If you do a 1-year, do a 4-year, you get E1 out of it. So the pay for E1, you're looking at about $1,550 a month, versus E3, you're looking at $2,040 a month. So it's a big jump, almost $500 that you're going to be jumping there to be able to start out as E3 versus E1. And then there's a certain amount of time and grade before you move to the next rank. But you actually move up pretty quick at first just to get to the staff sergeant, which is E5. And then you're going to be sitting there making roughly $2,800 a month. And that's about your 4-year mark in the Air Force on average. So you're making pretty good money. That's per month, $2,800. Once 4 years is up, equivalent to someone with a bachelor's degree after 4 years. They make on average in the nation $2,800 a month. Maybe not here in Erie. They don't make that much compared to the nation, but not everyone's going to stay here in Erie. So I do nation averages, and that's about $2,800 a month. Same thing you're making in the Air Force after 4 years, but you're not going to have any college debt. So starting out $1,550 to $2,040, depending on which rank you come in as and how many years. So $2,000 a month, you're not paying for any bills. You don't have any rent, mortgage, anything like that, because you're living in the dorms, and that's free. Utilities are free. So leave your water on, your lights on. No one's going to be yelling at you like mom and dad is at home. So utilities are covered. No, don't have to worry about that. House is covered, you can worry about that. Food's covered because you have a dining facility. You have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you have even midnight snacks on the weekends if you're up late. All that's provided. There's no necessity that you really need to pay for. If you want a car, you can get a car. So really, that $2,000 you're making is going straight to your pocket. So my first 2 years in the Air Force, I lived in the dorms. I wasn't married yet, and I didn't have a car because the place I worked for Security Forces, their squadron, was across the street. The gym was behind me in the dormitory, within a quarter mile, and then down in the parking lot was actually a dining facility. There's nothing really I needed to do or go. I never needed a car for anything, so I saved for the first 2 years. I saved all my money and I actually bought a Mustang brand new right off the lot with just cash. I never needed to use that money for anything, so I saved everything, bought my Mustang that I wanted. About 2.5 years in the dorms, I actually got married and moved out of the dorms. So then the Air Force actually gave me money for a median household income in that area. So it actually was more money than I needed and actually helped pay for my utilities as well. So even now here in Erie, the Air Force gives me $1,500 a month just for this area, and that's extra money because my mortgage is only $1,200 a month, and my utilities don't come to $300 a month. So the rest of that money just goes in my pocket. They just pay me that $1,500 right to my bank account, and I use it however I want. They also pay me food allowance because I'm not going to the dining facility, $369 a month towards my food allowance. So it's pretty nice. I'll make a lot more than you think on paper, and if you want to know more about that kind of stuff and how we actually make a lot more than the IRS thinks, come talk to me. I'll show you how we actually make a lot more than people think. It's not like when Grandpa was in, when they made like $150 a month. We make a lot more now. So some of our benefits, medical benefits, just like the other branches, we all have the same kind of benefits. Medical covered wiring, like I said, dorm, food, all the necessities are all covered. Your family's covered in medical as well. We use TRICARE. There's so many more benefits to it. Free education wiring. You get $4,500 every year towards tuition assistance. So you don't really have to pay for school. It's free while you're in too. Plus you still have the GI Bill when you get back out, which is $68,000 for whatever you want to spend that when you get back out. Free tuition while you're in, $68,000 when you get out. Or you have the post 9/11 GI Bill, which is $20,000 a year for 4 years, so $80,000. Plus they'll pay up to $1,500 a month towards your utilities, your rent, your food, whatever you need. So it goes off of your area. They'll go off of like wherever you might be living, whatever college you might be going to, they're going to go off of that area and give you the money if you want to stay on that college, or come back here to Erie and live with mom and dad and give them that money. However you want to spend that $1,500 a month plus the $20,000 every year for college. That's the post 9/11 GI Bill, and then you got the other one, Montgomery GI Bill. That was the $68,000. However you want to spend it. So promotion is pretty easy in the Air Force in the very beginning. Then you have to test. Once you make E4, senior airman, you actually take a test towards making the next rank of E5 for staff sergeant. And right now it's about 40% from E4 to E5 actually keep going and going on. And then the higher up you go, a little bit harder it goes. Keep testing along the way. So it's however you perform and however you study and take that test. So another question. Is our job, increasing the manning, decreasing, or remaining the same? So it's the Air Force. We're always going to be having, people in the Air Force coming in, going out. It remains the same. So it depends on how many people remain the same in the Air Force. They don't retire or they decide not to get out. And we actually have the highest retention rate in all the branches. The Air Force actually has 44% of its enlisted members actually re-enlist and stay in the Air Force. The next closest is the Navy at 25%. So 44% of our branch actually stays in. So that's again one of the other reasons why it's a lot harder to join our branch versus the others, because people aren't getting out, so there's not as many openings. If we only have 330,000 people in the Air Force and say 10,000 people get out, well, if there's 100,000 people trying to get in and we only got 10,000 spots, that's why our ASVAB score is a little bit harder. That's why our physical is a little bit harder at the military entry processing station. We don't have as many spots because our people decide to stay in because the Air Force lifestyle is a lot better than some of the civilian jobs and some of the other branches. So a lot of people actually stay in. So it remains about the same. With COVID and everything going on, with the coronavirus, people are actually staying in because people don't have jobs on the outside right now. So there's no one really wanting to get out. So the Air Force doesn't have as much of a mission to try to get people in. So right now it's the manning is a little bit decreased, but on average it stays about the same. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of the military and the Air Force? Advantages, everything's provided for you. You don't need to find a place to live. You don't need to worry about paying for school, putting in for loans, and applying to colleges and hoping to get picked up. With the Air Force, you're automatically, if it's a Yellow Ribbon Foundation school, which I'll go over that, if you have questions about that another time. But if it's Yellow Ribbon Foundation School, you're automatically accepted into that college because you are in the Air Force. That's what the community college of the Air Force is. It's not an actual college for you to go to, but it's a medium mediator basically to help you into that school automatically. So there's no application fees, there's no SAT scores, ACT scores that are required for you to submit. You don't need any of that stuff. So if you're in the Air Force, you're automatically accepted to whatever school. It's a Yellow Ribbon Foundation school. It's pretty cool. It's pretty nice. Some disadvantages, obviously, if I'm the active duty Air Force recruiter, if you want to join the Air Force active duty side, there are no bases here in Pennsylvania. The closest one might be Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, but we don't know what job you're going to be doing. We don't know if there's manning spots there in Wright-Patterson. So you could be stationed anywhere in the world, so you would have to leave your family. Some of you guys don't want to leave your family. I get that. We have reserve or guard for that if you're interested in doing those. I don't do, the recruiting service for that. Only active duty, but I can always hook you up with the people that can help you out for that. But if you want to get out and you want to travel, see the world a little bit, active duty is going to be what you want to do. So disadvantage, leaving your family a little bit. I actually was wanting to leave my family as soon as I could, travel, get out of Maryland where I was at. I wanted to go somewhere else new, and I have done that. Even though I got stationed back at Maryland again, at Anacostia Bowling in DC, and then Andrews. It was kind of nice being home after I was gone for 4 years in Missouri. But after a couple years back at Andrews, I actually went to Guam. I didn't even know where Guam was. I went there for 4 years, and it was actually pretty awesome being on a tropical island for 4 years. It was about 90 degrees every day, and it was surrounded, obviously, tropical island, 30 miles long by 8 miles wide. The water was actually pretty warm too, and you could actually see for hundreds of feet in the water. So it's very beautiful, and it was like 80 degrees stepping into a bathtub every time I got into the ocean. So I got my scuba diving certification while I was there. Got to do a lot of diving. So it was nice to see other places. Now we come back here again. Now that we have a daughter, we wanted to get stationed, a little bit closer to home, but not in the same city where my parents or in-laws would just show up randomly. So Erie was actually my first choice. So here I am in Erie. So it's nice to actually travel and get out and see different places and decide where I really want to live, and not just, only know Erie and never know what it's like to live somewhere else. So it's kind of cool. So some advice for you guys, trying to figure out what you guys want to do for your guys' career, for your life. A lot of you guys may not know what you want to do right now. I didn't either. And that's why I joined the Air Force. I kind of always had the thought of maybe being a cop one day. So when I joined, I had to list 3 different jobs I was interested in doing in the Air Force, and the Air Force would kind of match my ASVAB scores and my interests, and provide me with what they thought the best job would be for me. My list was fire department, security forces, and then EOD, explosive ordnance disposal. For my ASVAB scores, they're like, yeah, we don't need you to be going defusing bombs. We need you to do something else. They actually offered me security forces, even though fire department was number 1. Ended up, I was always wanting to do something with weapons, and security forces is something you're always carrying a gun, and then I was a combat arms instructor, so kind of worked out very well for me, and I loved it. But it's the same kind of thing. Nowadays, you list 10 jobs you're interested in doing, and the Air Force will look at your ASVAB scores, everything coming into, add it all up and see what the Air Force has best for you. Obviously, if your number 1 job, kind of like mine was fire department, if there's never any availabilities for whatever your number 1 job is, then they can't give you that job. They have to have openings in that position to be able to give you that job. You can't just be like, oh, I want to be like the CEO of McDonald's, but you just got out of high school. They're not going to give you that spot. You got to work your way up. It's the same kind of thing. You're starting out there as a clerk or a person, the register, that might be the openings they have. Can't just come in as a store manager. The same thing, with us in the Air Force. You can't just start out, pick an exact job we want, and then all of a sudden, hey, well, there's no openings. We can't do that for you. If there's openings, we can put you in those spots if that's what you want to do. But again, it goes off your ASVAB scores and what you're interested in doing and what the Air Force is looking for at the same time. So, to help you decide on what you want to do, though, you got to think: do you want to come out, go to college straight from college, say from high school to college, and then come out with a bunch of debt? I just spoke with someone just a couple weeks ago. They have about $70,000 in debt just from going to college, and they didn't even finish their degree, and they can't get any more loans, so they had to stop. They didn't even finish their degree, and now they're trying to join the Air Force with that $70,000 in debt. Now, with that debt, now they can't join because they have so much debt. So he got into a pickle. Well, he can't join because he's got so much debt, but he can't continue because no one else wants to give him loans because he has so much debt. So now he can't finish his degree, he can't join the service. Now he's got to find something else to do. So even people with degrees, I have people come all the time with degrees. Just because you have a degree, psychology or criminal justice, a lot of the common degrees, doesn't help you, and doesn't mean you're automatically going to be an officer. A lot of people go to school and get their degree and be like, oh, now I want to go officer. Well, that's actually the bottom of the pool that we look for officers. We look for Air Force ROTC or Air Force Academy, then the Air Force ROTC. Then we look for in-service members who get their degree. So if you're already in the Air Force, you have your clearance, you have no debt, all this other stuff, that's who they're going to pull third. The very last bucket we pull for is people that have a degree right out of college with debt and don't have any experience. Those are the last bucket, just like a lot of the other businesses that you're looking for. They're going to look last. People who have debt, have no clearance, but they have a degree. Cool. You have no experience, no on-job experience doing that job, but joining any of the services really. But it's particularly the Air Force. You're going to have on-the-job experience. You're going to have certifications. You're going to have that degree. You're going to have that background check. You have no debt. You have money saved up. So even if that company is like, hey, we want to hire you, but you got to wait 6 months. Well, you've saved up that money and you can be like, okay, cool. I got my dream job. I just got to wait a little bit. If you're coming right out of college with 4-year degree and you have all this debt and you have nowhere to live now, because now you're coming out of college. Now you have to live with mom and dad. Now mom and dad's got you after they've had rid of you after 4 years. So now you're 22, 23 years old and living back home with mom and dad for 6 months while you're waiting on this job. If they hire you with this debt and then no one else comes along the way that's better before you get that job. So just think about, what is it really going to require if you go straight to college? And even if you don't go to college, are you going to go straight to the workforce? If you go straight to the workforce, where are you going to go up from? Like, you're just working at McDonald's, just working at Dollar General, Little Caesars. Where are you going to be working that's going to provide you a place, for your own family one day to get out of living with mom and dad? Because do you want to live with mom and dad forever? Do you want to stay in here in Erie forever and, live in the same kind of lifestyle that you're living now? Or do you want to improve yourself, give yourself a family, a better family, provide more for them than you can be provided for now? I don't know your living situations, each of you, but not everyone comes from a good background. I didn't come back from a good background either. That's one of the reasons I joined the Air Force and got out as soon as I could. I had to help pay some of my mom's bills growing up in high school. I worked 40-hour weeks just to pay some of the bills. So as soon as I can get out of there, I got out of there. So my mom didn't have to worry about me and I could provide for myself. And I want to provide myself, my family, a better life than I had. So that's one of the reasons I joined as well. So for COVID-19, we are still operating kind of like normal. A lot of the stuff's over the phone or Zoom, kind of like, making a camera video right now for you. We're doing some of the kind of same stuff. We just do Zoom, talk about the Air Force, some benefits, see if you qualify. I can send you a practice ASVAB test to see kind of how you do if you haven't taken the ASVAB before. But we can do all this stuff. If you want to go to the Military Entry Processing Station and still continue the process to join the Air Force, we can still do that. We sit down in the office, we go over all the paperwork and everything, and I can still get you to MEPS. You can still do the process. If you are interested in the Air Force, instead of waiting till the last minute, April, May, June timeframe, starting now is the best advice I can give you with whatever branch you're going to join. Only reason because you could get disqualified for something you have no idea about. And if you get disqualified from all the branches, at least starting now, you find out you have time to apply to college or find another backup plan, a technical school or trade school or something like that you can go to. But if you wait till May timeframe, all college applications are due several months before April or May. Now is when you want to put your applications in for colleges, right? So if you wait and then you find out in May that you're disqualified, happens to many, many people every year, right? And now it's too late. Now what do you do? Now you got to wait a whole semester before you can apply for the winter semester of school for next year. So don't wait. Start the process now. Reach out to me. Reach out to whatever branch you're interested in. If it may be Army, Marines, Navy, that's good. You're still pursuing something. You're still getting the benefits of serving your country. You're still getting everything you need starting out in life instead of just getting in a bunch of debt. Okay. So I'm going to attach my contact information here at the end. But if you're just listening to this, again, I'm Sergeant Sizemore. My phone number is 814-762-9324.